Good morning, everyone. Happy first day of spring. I don't know about your crocuses, but mine are really trying hard to get out from under 2 feet of snow. Welcome to the Namakwa Unitarian Universalist congregation. We're happy to see you joining us this morning, no matter who you are, no matter where you live, no matter what you believe or who you love. My name is Kathy Hartman. I serve as a worship associate to this warm and loving congregation. I use the pronouns she, her, and hers. My compadre this morning is another worship associate, Fred Schrekinger. And as many of you know, our beloved minister, Laurel Liefert, is on a well-deserved sabbatical. She'll be back the 1st of May. We're still meeting virtually with the hey, you're still on mute Zoom technology, but I'm thankful for that. And there is a light at the end of this tunnel as more and more of us get vaccinated. And while some of our small meetings can now be in person, we still mostly continue to social distance, wear our masks, stay out of crowds, and wash our hands. Please bear with us if there are any rough spots in this program today, in our service today. If voices get broken up or if the picture freezes, it'll all be fine. We've got Sarah Suriani as our Zoom tech. She does a fabulous job, and it has been an amazing commitment for her as we enter the 2nd year of this COVID virus. We welcome all newcomers and invite you to tell us your names by clicking on the chat button below. You can also leave us an email address if you want further information or have any questions. Today's service will be recorded and posted on our namakwauU.org website. Please continue to keep your microphones muted, or we'll do it for you. But later you can unmute if you wish to share a joy or concern, and when we all get to socialize during our virtual coffee hour. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Bill Rosequist, one of the co-chairs of the annual pledge drive, and he's going to give us an update.
Thanks, Kathy. I'm going to ask 2 questions. Who's responsible for Namakwa? And do you have skin in the game? So the first question, who's responsible for Namakwa? Obviously, we are. Nobody else but us. The second question, and I hate sports metaphors, but this is full of them. So do you have skin in the game? Where did that come from? Well, it means that when you were playing, were you bruised and battered? Are you really in the game? Or are you just kind of on the sideline watching? And another metaphor is also that if you're invested, if you have money invested, you have skin in the game. It's kind of true that you only protect that in which you are personally invested and that which you love. That also goes for the environment. You only protect what you love there too. So ask yourself those 2 questions. With about 2 weeks left in our pledge drive, we are about 80% of the way towards our goal. Interestingly, we have accomplished this with 40% of the Namakwa pledgers having returned their pledge forms. With the drive ending on March 31st, will we make our goal? If you have pledged in the past years, we thank you and hope you can continue again this year with your support in building our beloved community. If you have not pledged before, imagine, and that's all in caps, imagine what you can help accomplish. Knowing that 70% of our budget goes towards salaries, 11% to maintaining our buildings, and less than 20% for the ministries in support of social action, pastoral care, worship, community building, youth and adult RE, and many other programs that shine our light in Loveland and beyond. What is all this worth in dollars and cents? Considerable. So pledge any amount, $10, $20, it really doesn't matter, but pledge and make sure you have some skin in the game. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Bill, and also Mickey McGuire for heading up the pledge drive this year. It's a big job, and you guys are up to the task, and we're getting there. We're getting there. Let's start our service. Fred, would you read our chalice lighting words, and I'll light our candle.
A chalice is lit in our midst as a symbol of our liberal faith, faith built on the foundations of freedom, reason, and welcome, faith sustained by acts of kindness and justice, faith that envisions a world flourishing in equality for all people, faith that demands the living out of the goodness, the living of goodness, faith that requires thoughtfulness. And of course, since commitment is our theme this month, we are committed to our faith. This tiny flame is a symbol of spark of all within us, within each of us. And let us worship together. Please recite our congregational affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church and service its call. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Thank you, Fred. And here's an old familiar story with a little bit more.
Little boy throwing starfish into the ocean. Despite being disparaged by an older man, the story ends with the boy giving the famous line, "It mattered to that one." While it's a great story that's been popular for decades, the original story has so much more depth. It was written in 1978 by Loren Eiseley, a science writer, based on experiences from his own life. Eiseley goes on a trip to a coastal tourist town alone. He's in a pessimistic and difficult place in his life. The trip is a soul-searching one for him. As he contemplates his life and his many challenges, he feels especially lonely. One evening, as Eiseley walks thoughtfully along the beach, he notices that there is sea life scattered along the beach due to the low tide. There are professional shellers and tourists who are anxiously picking them up to cook or sell. The stranded creatures don't stand a chance. This frantic grasping for personal gain adds to Eiseley's feelings of pessimism toward humanity. The next morning at dawn, Eiseley goes to the beach for another walk. The same gatherers are still on the beach, but this time he notices a lone figure on the horizon on a rocky part near a cove. As Eiseley gets closer, he sees the man picking up starfish from the small tide pools and throwing them back into the sea. He approaches the man and strikes up a conversation. The star-throwing man, with kindness in his eyes, tells him, "The stars throw well. One can help them." Eiseley is astounded at his optimism. As he walks away, he's filled with cynicism about the man's futile goal. After the evening, Eiseley contemplates more about life, has a change of heart, and then decides to revisit the star thrower the next day. On the beach the next morning, standing beside the star thrower, Eiseley quietly picks up and throws a starfish into the ocean. Eiseley then says, "I understand. Call me another thrower," and tells himself that he won't let the star thrower be alone in his mission to save a life, one at a time. It concludes with Eiseley and the star thrower standing together looking out at the sea. Eiseley writes, "But we, pale and alone and small in that immensity, hurled back the living stars. Somewhere far off, I felt as though another world was flung more joyfully. I could have thrown in a frenzy of joy, but I set my shoulders and cast, as the thrower, slowly, deliberately as well. The task was not to assumed lightly, for it was men as well as starfish that we sought to save." Live Rad is about average.
So now it's time for an important part of our service where we weave a tapestry of love we call community. We take time each Sunday to ask you about what's going on in your life. What are your joys and your concerns? We, of course, would like to keep it brief. And I will transfer a stone from my hand from one dish into another and collect those joys and concerns from all of you. If you'd like to share, please raise your hand or use the chat to send your name, and we'll call on you. And please be brief and know that you can talk about this more in the virtual coffee hour. I'd like to start with a joy and a sorrow. That is that many of us are vaccinated and many more are scheduled to be vaccinated. And it feels like there's finally some hope in the air for this darn virus. Let's please also remember the people in our congregation, the people in our neighborhood and our families in the bigger world who continue to suffer or have died from the virus pandemic. So, do we have some folks who would like to speak? And I need some help here because I have a small screen and I can't see a lot of you. Any hands up out there? Tom, it's nice to see your face. Rebecca, would you like to give us a little update?
Sure. Yes, thank you. Tom's on the mend. His drainage tubes have been pulled out. He's got till April 8th to go to the hospital for antibiotic infusion, but things are definitely on the uptick. And we so appreciate everyone's support and love and care. It's been a tough time, and the community has really been a great help to us.
Mickey, did you want to say something?
Sure. Sorry, my camera stopped functioning this morning for some reason. But our joy is that my son Chris brought his two oldest boys, Rocky, who's 11, and Bodie, who's almost 9, for a visit. They got here Thursday. So we've not been resting. We went to Rocky Mountain National Park on Friday, and then we went fishing yesterday. Today's kind of a rest day, but we're going to go see their great grandma on Monday, and we're going to spend a fair amount of time at the Museum of Science and Nature in Denver. So it's a wonderful, wonderful time for us.
Yeah, it sounds great. Tracy, did you have something you wanted to say?
I have to go to Boston for surgery. The doctors here in Denver are not able to treat a condition I have, and so I'll be traveling April 20th to Boston in hopes that they can take care of what needs to be taken care of.
We will definitely keep you in our thoughts and wish you safe travels, and be sure and keep in touch and let us know what you need. Was there anyone else that I may have missed? All right. Good to see Kent here also. Kent is in Brookdale on 29th Street, but he's visiting us through the help of someone that set him up on Zoom. So it's good to see you, Kent. Well, I'll put a few more stones in the bowl for all those things that are too tender to share. Know that we are with you in your joys and sorrows. Let's meditate on all of these life changes that are happening while we listen to Comfort Me, sung by the UU congregation in Phoenix.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me.
Boy, I don't know about you, but I can't wait until we don't have to watch frozen voices on the screen and we can do our own voices and our own singing and our own music, and that too shall come. Now, please give Fred your attention for his reflection entitled Unitarian Universalist Martyrs and Heroes of the Civil Rights Era. Fred.
I'm proud to be a Unitarian Universalist because the church has a heritage of commitment to social justice. This is not a history lecture, it's a reflection about heritage. History happened up until yesterday. Heritage happened in the past and continues today. President Obama on occasion quoted Martin Luther King as preaching that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Martin Luther King did not originate that phrase. It was first uttered by Theodore Parker, a Unitarian minister and an abolitionist in 1853. As UUs, we have been pushing and pulling that arc at every stage at all times in many areas. One of these times was the 1960s, when the fight for social justice was at a critical historical period. With a Democratic president and, believe it or not, a bipartisan Congress, rapid progress was being made. The Deep South was resisting and, in fact, violently resisting. And in fact, was fighting the resistance of two Unitarian Universalists gave their lives, and numerous others risked their lives. One martyr was the Reverend James Reeb, 38, who was a white person of Boston, Massachusetts, a father of 4. And the other one was Viola Liuzzo, a 39-year-old mother of 5 from Detroit, Michigan. She was also white. Both deaths occurred in Selma, Alabama, shortly after Bloody Sunday, which was March 7th, 1965. A brief timeline might start with the March on Washington on August 28th, 1963, when 200,000 people heard Martin Luther King deliver his I Have a Dream speech. This eventually led to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It had been initiated by John F. Kennedy before his assassination. To honor him, the legislation started moving quickly through Congress and was signed in July of 1964. Earlier in 64, the 24th Amendment to the United States Constitution was enacted outlawing the poll tax. This was where Blacks were charged money in order to vote. In 1965, Southern resistance was beginning to intensify. Blacks were organizing to register voters, and white Southerners were planning resistance. In February of 1965, a Black civil rights worker named Jimmy Lee Jackson was both beaten and shot to death. This created outrage which caused the Blacks in the South and civil rights activists in the North to take action. A march was planned from Selma, Alabama to Montgomery, Alabama to demand voting rights. The march was to begin March 7th from the Edmund Pettus Bridge. There were 600 mostly Black marchers. As is now well known, the march did not make it past the end of the bridge. People with belly clubs, fire hoses, gas, and dogs beat back the marchers. This was the first real internationally broadcast evidence of the brutality that existed in the South. After the march, a second march was planned 2 days later, March 9th. A restraining order was issued to prevent the march. The march started anyway, but was voluntarily stopped halfway across the bridge. The plan was that a third march would occur a few weeks later with adequate protection to be arranged. On March 21st, which is 56 years ago today, the third march was protected by the United States Army troops and the National Guard. It was completed from Selma to Montgomery. The march started with 300 people, which is all the judge had authorized. It started out, and by the time they got to Montgomery, there were 30,000 people who had all planned to be there. Among the people joining along the way were at least 500 Unitarian Universalist lay persons and about 250 of the 710 Unitarian Universalist ministers in the United States. Add to that even more Unitarian ministers who came down to Selma in the summer of 1965 to work on voters' rights projects. Some have estimated that half of the Unitarian Universalist ministers in the country participated. All this despite the fact that 2 weeks prior, on the 21st of prior to the 21st March, the Reverend James Reeb, who was a Unitarian minister, was killed. He was a Unitarian minister who had forsaken his parish ministry to live in a Black neighborhood in Roxbury, Massachusetts. He was in Selma pursuant to a telegram sent by Martin Luther King on March 8th, the day after the march, to the Unitarian Universalist Social Responsibility Department. Other religions got similar telegrams. Reeb went to Selma over strenuous objections from his wife. He had an infant among his 4 children. He was eating in a restaurant on March 9th, which was the day after he got the telegram from Martin Luther King, so he got down there pretty quickly. He was with 3 other Unitarian Universalists, and as they left the restaurant, they were attacked. Reeb was clubbed and died 2 days later, and another minister was clubbed but survived. The Black hospital in town was not equipped to take care of his type of problems, and the white hospital refused to take him. So they had to take him 50 miles to Montgomery, where he died 2 days later when his wife authorized them to cease life-sustaining activities. Reeb's death caused an outrage throughout the country. Much more of an outrage than when Jimmy Lee Jackson died. He was the first real white martyr to occur. And within a week after he died, the Voters' Rights Act of 1965 was jointly proposed by Mike Mansfield, the Democratic Majority Leader of the Senate, and Everett Dirksen, the Minority Republican Leader. Lyndon Baines Johnson addressed Congress on March 15th, which was only 4 days after Reeb died. Martin Luther King gave a long eulogy to Reeb, in which he praised those brave enough to fight for justice and chastised those who sat on the sidelines. In Detroit, Viola Liuzzo, a Unitarian Universalist who was a converted Catholic, she'd become a Unitarian Universalist in 1964. She had a rags to riches story and got a college education later in life. And as we said, had 5 children. She had decided that before the 3rd March on March 21st, that it was everybody's fight and that she needed to be there. She also faced strong opposition from her family. Her role when she got there was to transport demonstrators. She was driving on a highway with a Black passenger when 4 Ku Klux Klan members drove by and shot her, killing her instantly. Rumors started immediately that she was a drug user and had been having sex with her passenger. Autopsies proved otherwise. A cross was burned in front of Liuzzo's home in Detroit by the Ku Klux Klan with her children present. The Freedom of Information Act actually revealed later that J. Edgar Hoover himself had started those rumors. And we all remember he also started a lot of rumors about Martin Luther King. His opposition to the civil rights movement was communist, but we know he was a racist. After the killings, the Civil Rights Act of 1965 sailed through Congress. Viola Liuzzo has a statue of her in Detroit and a monument on the highway where she was killed. One of Martin Luther King's many quotes was that a man who does not have something for which he's living to die is not fit to live. And of course, today he would say a person is not fit to live, since it was both a man and a woman who were martyrs. So be it. Okay. Each week we virtually receive our offering. Each quarter, Namakwa donates half of its collection plate to support a local community or local community. This quarter we'll donate to Insight Skills Center. There's 2 more weeks for this particular organization. To donate, click on the icon that invites you to give, or you can always mail your donation to the church. While we're making these contributions, let's listen to Grateful by Nemo Patel and Daniel Namu.
You're my life, you're my breath, you're a smile, you're my guest. You're the earth, you're the sun, you're the grass, you are love. You're my hands, you're a bug, you're my eyes, you're a hug. You're the light in the dark, you're the spark, you are fun. You're my mom, you are water, you're the stars, you're my daughter. You're my friend till the end, you're my dreams, you're my father. You're the ants on the ground, the miracles that surround. I'm feeling it all around, the hemisphere in the clouds. You're my pain, you're my sorrow, you're my hope for tomorrow. You're the strength when I'm hollow, you're the path that I follow. You're the blessings that exist, the small things that are bliss. The gift to realize that everything
All
is a
that
gift.
I am, all that I see, all that I've been, and all that I'll ever be is a blessing. It's so amazing, and I'm grateful for it all, for it all. Grateful for it all.
You're the blessings every time I try to count. You're the lessons that I learn every time I turn around. You're the water when I'm burned every time I think I found everything I'm looking for. You're the sign saying stop to take a bow and keep moving forward and start looking towards your heart. It'll open all the doors and only then you'll start to hear the world singing chorus with your mind and heart. Aligned in purpose, everything
All
will feel
that I
gorgeous.
am, all that I see, all that I've been, and all that I'll ever be is a blessing. It's so amazing, and I'm grateful for it all,
Every day I sit and pray cause what I have is more than I deserve or could ever imagine. How do I give back to all of this magic and spread the love so everybody can have it? Doesn't matter if I'm rich or poor, if I got a family or if I'm all alone. Bad things happen, I can just complain and moan, but there's a million things that I can be grateful for.
so I lift up my hands now, and I open my heart, and my gratitude goes out to everything near and far. All that I am,
Everything I am and everything I see, everything I hope and everything I dream, everything I feel and everything I be. I look deep down and feel all the blessings. Everything I am and everything I see, everything I hope and everything I dream, everything I feel and everything I be. I'm grateful for it all. It's amazing. Everything I am and everything I see, everything I hope and everything I dream, everything I feel and everything I be. I look deep down and feel all the blessings. Everything I am and everything I see, everything I hope and everything I dream, everything I feel and everything I be. I'm grateful for it all. It's amazing. You're the blessings that exist, the small things that are bliss, the gift to realize that everything is a gift.
You all are a gift. Well, I told my son the other day that I had to work on my reflection, and he asked me what I'd be speaking about. I said commitment, and he asked, oh, you mean like going to prison? We had been talking about the usage of the word commit, and I had talked about committing a crime, and his mind went right to the consequence. But it got me to thinking about commitments we make versus those that are made for us. And in this world, it becomes clear that many things lie on a spectrum, and certainly commitment is one of them. Earlier, Fred talked about a number of UUs in our heritage who demonstrated commitment beyond belief, beyond life itself. I'm going to bring it closer to home, partly because we are in the midst of our annual budget drive, partly because commitments can seem hazy in COVID times, and partly because one of my commitments is serving on the Leadership Development Committee. The word commitment has 3 Latin roots. Com means together, mit is to send, and ment is a result. Together, we are sent or we move in a direction that gives us a result. That would be one take on this word. And that feels comfortable. I always find it easier to follow through on my commitments if I'm working with others who are moving in the same direction. You've undoubtedly heard me speak about my entry into Unitarian Universalism. When I found Namaqua, I felt a sense of relief and of comfort. I wasn't looking for more to do. I was looking for solace, friendship, and spiritual growth. I could finally say the word spiritual and not think of religion or doctrine or penance or confession. I didn't know which direction I was headed, but I sure felt like this was the group I wanted to explore it with. I went from judging folks who went to church every Sunday to knowing that was exactly where I wanted to be. And fortunately for me, church starts at 10 a.m., which totally fits my schedule. And even if the church hadn't moved around the corner from my house, I was committed to being at Sunday service each week as much as possible. Time for a short commercial break. We are in the midst of our annual pledge drive. Now, for me, my history of understanding how congregations work financially was a bit naive. We often don't talk about money in church. I grew up in the Catholic Church, and every Sunday I, along with my dad, put money in the collection plate. The other money connection was a little side gig for the children. We raised money in the months prior to Christmas to save pagan babies. We had no other explanation that I can recall, but every Sunday we paraded to the front of the church to put our pennies and nickels into the special pagan baby collection tin next to baby Jesus in the nativity scene, so we could save as many babies as possible. Years later, I was surprised to learn that a classmate was horrified by this whole scene. He had pictured babies hanging on a pegboard, pagan babies. And every time we collected enough money, a baby was saved and taken down from the pegboard. But he was focused on the babies still hanging on that pegboard. No one ever really explained what we were doing. This is the kind of confusion that can ensue if we're not clear about what we need and why we need it. When I came to Namaqua, I thought that my $5 in the Sunday collection plate was a big deal. I was doing my part. Only later, and with some education by the pledge drive crew, did I recognize that we pay rent and salaries, and we pay for power and water and supplies just like any organization. Our minister doesn't just work for spiritual satisfaction, and angels breathing down from on high don't provide our heat. We had real bills to pay. Duh. We have an operating budget, and that is what our pledge payments go towards. And of course, my dad was also making an annual donation to his church. I just never knew anything about it. And so now every year I make a financial commitment, and every year I increase it a bit and recognize that I could never pay enough for what I've received in return. I hope you feel the same. And now back to our regular programming. Commitment in the time of COVID. Many of us volunteer and have taken positions within this congregation. Right now, sometimes this work feels invisible. Is anyone paying attention? Is my work valuable? Where is everybody? It's challenging to keep up the energy and enthusiasm for me because I get satisfaction from your smiling faces, from your attention, the chuckles I sometimes get with my bad jokes, and of course from the work itself, the collaboration, the sense of achievement when we put our minds and bodies to something important. The work is good, the results are necessary, but the all-important togetherness is evasive, almost non-existent. Oh well, get over it, this too shall pass. And that is when our internal commitment is notable, the one that comes when you know what you're doing is right for you, no matter who is with you or who is watching. The commitments we make are what lead to a meaningful life. The commitments we make at Namakwa are what lead to this extraordinary congregation. So yes, I feel like I'm now heading into another public service announcement. In every job that I've ever had, a big responsibility was to recruit, train, and motivate volunteers. Now I'm on Namakwa's Leadership Development Committee, and I have the honor and privilege to serve with Jerry Sokolowski and Susan Moody, two amazingly enthusiastic and positive women. Our mission is to build leadership. We work to find those who will fill elected leadership positions, and in the course of doing that, we also try to see where other folks might fit, doing work they'd like to do and where we have needs. Could be taking meals to someone in need. It could be fixing the furnace. It could be leading a small group discussion or building a constituency to advocate for those who are unhoused, abused, or discriminated against. To that end, today in your email, you will receive a link to a survey asking you a little about who you are, what you like to do, what your interests are, what you need and want from this congregation. The survey might take you 10 minutes, and we would really appreciate you taking the time. Please check your email to make sure it's not in spam. Contact me if you have any questions, and note the possibility of fabulous prizes for completing the survey. I wouldn't want to leave you with the idea that my view of commitment relies only on your money, your time, or your talent. More importantly is the commitment we all make to this community of faith we call Unitarian Universalism. And that's a whole sermon unto itself for another time. But let me leave you with these words by the Reverend Galen Gingrich. Faith is a commitment to live as if certain things are true, and thereby help to make them so. Faith is a commitment to live as if life is a wondrous mystery, as if life is good, as if love is divine, and as if we are responsible for the well-being of those around us. May it be so.
Now please enjoy our closing song, Resilient by Rising Appalachian, and then we'll extinguish our chalice.
I am resilient. I trust the movement. I negate the chaos, uplift the negative. I'll show up at the table again and again and again. I'll close my mouth and learn to listen. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. 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 These times are poignant. The winds have shifted. It's all we can do to stay uplifted. Pipelines through backyards, wolves howling out fronts. Yeah, I got my crew, but truth is what I want. Realigned and on point, power to the peaceful, prayers to the waters, women at the center, all vessels open to give and receive. Let's see the system brought down to its knees. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. Whoa, whoa, oh, oh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. made of dirt, yeah, made of the fine things. My father taught me that I'm a speck of dust and this world was made for me. So let's go and try our luck, said. I've got my roots down, 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 down deep. I've got my roots down, 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 down deep. I've got my roots down, down, down deep. I've got my roots down, down, down deep. So what are we doing here? What has been done? What are you gonna do about it when the world comes undone? My voice feels tiny, and I'm sure so does yours. Put us all together, make a mighty I am resilient. I trust the movement. I negate the chaos. Uplift the negative. I'll show up at the table again and again and again. I'll close my mouth and learn to listen.
Our time together is finished, but our work is not done. May our spirits be renewed and our resolve strengthened as we meet our challenges of the week to come. This chalice is extinguished until we ignite it again with the spark of our communion. Now we'll have announcements.
Well, next week, be sure and join us. We'll have worship associates Andy Carlson and Mim Neal. It's great to have Andy back for a service. They will speak in praise of praise in a service entitled Hail and Hosanna. Just so you know, we do send out an e-blast every week with details of the Sunday service and general announcements. If you're not receiving them, be sure and let us know. You can go to the website and also contact us through that, or let us know in the chat. A few things going on. This Wednesday night, there is a game night. Check the Makwa calendar for the time and the link to participate. Sounds like fun. We also have our regular meditation group at 10 a.m. on Thursday and a gathering of Namaku women called the Social Sisterhood. Again, look at the Zoom links on the calendar for that and any other events going on. And one other note, one person in particular has had some mail returned that was correctly addressed and returned to sender. So if any of you have had that happen, please let us know and we'll talk to the postal carrier and see what's going on. Sarah is now going to offer you the opportunity to join a breakout room for our virtual coffee hour. Wait for the invitation to appear on your screen, unmute, and spend some time with other congregants. After 7 minutes, she'll switch you to another group, so you'll get to interact with even more of your fellow congregants. Thank you, Sarah, for being our Zoom tech today and many other Sundays. We so appreciate you, and there's always room for more Zoom techs. Come on board.